I'm Jordan Maureen, and I work for Work Opportunities. I struggled a lot with community inclusion at first because I just didn't have a good sense of what community inclusion should look like. I had a sense that it was supposed to be community inclusive, and when I was first introduced to the program, I was told it was supposed to give people with disabilities the same access to services and events as other people. We got help through the ITA services and Miss Josie Sparks herself, having a lot of giving me a lot of different direction than I had originally had. Instead of telling me it's about access to the same services, it's about community integration, finding friends, finding a community group, finding activities, getting out and enjoying your life, having hobbies, just like the rest of us try and do. Man, I kind of wish I had the same kind of help myself. I have 3 clients in community inclusion who do a variety of different activities. Before we had the ITA services, it was a lot of confusion. It was a lot of just trying to get them out there and finding out what they liked and things like that. And I think that I was kind of stuck in this idea of just getting them out there and making sure they had fun and not necessarily engaging. And so now that I have more of an understanding of what that looks like and that kind of thing, I'm more looking at who did they interact with today? What did they get out of today on a level of reducing loneliness and finding interest and finding the good things in their life. With my client, Amy, Miss Amy Reed, she's wonderful. She's a young lady who had worked in a sheltered workshop before and found that not exactly to her liking. She has trouble with work, and especially with that kind of consistent routine, and we were having trouble finding her a place in employment, and her guardian suggested that she move over to community inclusion, and we had a meeting with staff and everything. That was even before my time. Now she's in community inclusion, and we went through quite a few support people who worked with her. People who tried different activities. We thought we had found something with one of her old supports where it was just going to events. And then as I learned more, as I started working with Amy, and I tried to keep up with that event sort of idea and trying to find events in the community she might like, we had that ITA services during that time. And I learned again, it's not about events, it's not about specific enjoyment, it's about being a member of the community and finding enjoyment in that. So we moved away from finding events and instead towards finding a specific interest Amy had in the community that she would enjoy. And I went through quite a few different things. Amy doesn't like to directly interact with objects or people. She doesn't like to shake hands. She likes to hold hands occasionally, but she wasn't interested in coloring or in coffee or anything like that. But I noticed she was still having fun when we went out. And I was trying to figure out what is it about her going out that she was having fun with. And I had this aha moment. I had this click. It was just walking and being around. It was seeing the sights and enjoying them. So I tried one day, instead of going to the mall, instead of going to a shop or a farmer's market, we just went out on the trails. There's a wonderful park near our house called the Park at Buffalo Landing, and it's got a beautiful trail that runs along the side of the river, and Amy was smiling ear to ear the whole time. It was a nice, beautiful, sunny day. She was out for longer than I had ever seen her be out, to the point that we were out for so long, I noticed she was getting tired and she was kind of limping over herself. And I eventually had to tell her, hey, we have to go home now because I don't want you to fall and then have a negative experience out of this. And she was not having it. I had to convince her to get out of the car once we got back home. Not only that, but for the first time, I took her out again to that same trail, and I made it a point to try and say hello to people on the trail. Not necessarily on her behalf, but just trying to engage with people, see who would engage with me. And towards the end of the day, Amy had heard me just saying hello to random people, and I said hello to a person on the trail, and I heard Amy attempt to say good morning to someone. Amy, who does not use words to communicate, attempted to say morning to someone in her own way. They didn't notice, but it was a step in the right direction, and it was a step in... She looked at me like she had just won the gold medal. She was so proud of herself, and it was just a great day. It was such a good example of what that can look like. I know with Miss Amy, our goal is to eventually get her into a walking group. There are tons of good trails here in Washington. We are like the best state for just walking and being in nature, and I'd love to get her involved in some of those groups. I kind of looked around and looked at some of the walking groups that were already established, ones you can find very easily. A lot of those were very early morning groups. Amy likes to sleep in. So when we're talking about baby steps with a client, once we have identified the thing that our goal for Amy is joining this walking group, it may still be another year or two before we get her engaged in a walking group that way. I think that for right now, our goal is to just get her to continue to, in whatever way she can, engage with people on the trail. Maybe make a friend who goes out at the same time as her, or someone that we see in the area, a neighbor, a friend. Even invite, some of her roommates or maybe, friends that she may have from the past out with her, and see how she enjoys walking with other people in more of a set setting instead of just walking next to someone. And then from there, hopefully we'll find some friends out on the trail that'll start to join us on our walks, and then eventually build that up until, I may eventually get to the point where I post online and say, hey, Amy and I are going to go out for a walk on this trail at this time. Come and join us, please. And, it's so weird to say that I'm trying to create a group, because there obviously are tons of them, but maybe there's not one that matches what Amy wants. Maybe there's not one that's time slot. Maybe there's not one at the specific trail. Amy is so wonderful, and her smile just draws people in. I have no doubt that we'll eventually get there, but it's going to be a lot of baby steps. It's going to be a lot of just getting her to say hello more often. A lot of, maybe trying a different trail. Maybe it's just this trail she likes. Maybe it's all trails. Eventually finding a way that we can still do it when it's raining out, so that way she's not missing out on what she likes to do. I'm not expecting this to be an immediate slam dunk. We might turn around and Amy might decide she doesn't like walking anymore. We might find that her interest is waning, or perhaps, Miss Amy, her disability has increased in such a way that she can't walk anymore. But we're going to continue to try and follow this path as much as possible until we hit the point where we're integrating her in the community, and she is eventually getting to the point where she has friends who are taking her out instead of me having to take her out. Or we're going to get to a point where we have to say, okay, it's time to look at something else. And either way, it's going to be a success because we're working towards something. And in that case, I can start honing in on, okay, she likes walking near water, maybe a beach walk. Maybe it's just sitting near the ocean. Maybe it's, maybe I start noticing that she's looking at all the birds or all the foliage. And I could start thinking about, well, okay, maybe if walking's not working out, we can look at bird watching groups. Maybe we can look at, I'm sure that there are like yoga groups that go out on the beach and do yoga. Maybe that could be something she could join. Looking at, I'm sure there's groups out there just walk trails and identify plants. That's got to be a thing too. But looking more deeply at why she's enjoying this walk, I'm thinking that it's just that she's enjoying the walk itself, but there probably are deeper pieces to that, right? I don't just enjoy, let's say, French toast just because it's food. I enjoy it because it's sweet, because it's, something I get rarely. It's a treat. It's got cinnamon, which is one of my favorite things. There's a whole bunch of there's another layer to the things that we like, and we have to break it up into pieces to find out where more specific interests are. There is some issue with turnaround. A lot of people use these kinds of jobs as springboards to move on to, the jobs they're actually looking for, and it's hard to keep consistent staff on. But what I would recommend is keeping detailed notes on clients, and as much as possible, keeping the same staff with them, because knowing the client is so, so important. Because you get someone who doesn't quite know the client, and they're afraid to try new things with the client. They're afraid, oh my gosh, what if he freaks out in the middle of the park? Or what if she really doesn't enjoy this and she just starts crying? And we have to be confident and comfortable enough with the client to be able to not only just address the crises when they come up, but be able to explore and know the way they communicate. Again, Amy doesn't use words to communicate. That's not the way she does it. She can try, and like I said, I was very happy when she did, but I'm not going to force her to. Her method of communication is facial expression. Oh my God, I cannot tell you how hard it is to keep up with her, because I'm still trying, but learning when she's looking at something and learning what a raised eyebrow means, or where that big smile is coming from and what exactly she's looking at. Knowing that when I ask her a question and she looks me directly in the eyes, it means yes. Things like that, and having that consistency with the staff, and not only on our side, but on their side too. We have to remember clients are people, and they're going to come across staff that they love and want to be with for forever, and they're going to build up trust, And sometimes they're also going to run into staff maybe they just don't like. Not necessarily because the staff is doing anything wrong, just personality conflicts. Maybe Miss Amy doesn't like super tall guys because maybe there's a super tall guy that scared her one time. Maybe we have another client out there who doesn't like super short people because they've got, bad experiences or whatever other number of random things that could affect somebody's interest in their supports. So I would just say keep really detailed notes. That way that when you do inevitably have staff that leave and you have to introduce someone new, they have at least a starting point. And also trying to keep the same staff with them. It's so easy for us to say, well, they're in community inclusion, it doesn't really matter who's supporting them. It 100% does. 100 million percent to build up that trust on the job coach, on the support side and on the client side.